Dr. Marcus Chun had seen many strange things during his 3 years as a xenobiologist on Kepler Station, but nothing quite like the massive creature bleeding out on the medical bay floor. The beast stood nearly 12 feet tall, its obsidian scales dulled by pain and exhaustion. 6 powerful limbs supported a body built like a living tank, while a crown of bone spikes framed a head filled with teeth that could crush steel. Most unsettling were its eyes, intelligent, ancient, and filled with suffering. The Valthara Warlord who had brought the creature paced nearby, his forearms gesticulating wildly as he spoke in rapid clicks and whistles to the station commander. Marcus didn't need to understand the alien language to know what was happening. The Warlord wanted his prized war beast healed, but the station's veterinary systems were designed for Earth animals and simple alien livestock, not apex predators from the Outer Rim. Dr. Chun, Commander Hayes approached with obvious reluctance. Warlord Jektar says this creature is worth more than our entire station. It's some kind of legendary bloodline that his family has bred for centuries. He's insistent that we help. Marcus knelt beside the beast, noting the deep gashes along its flanks and the way its breathing came in labored gasps. Purple blood pooled beneath its massive form, and he could see fragments of metal embedded in several wounds. This wasn't just injury from battle. Someone had tried to kill this creature with explosive devices. What happened to it? Marcus asked, pulling on examination gloves. The commander translated, then reported back. Assassination attempt on the Warlord's heir. The beast protected the young prince, but took the brunt of a plasma mine explosion. Jektar says it's been deteriorating for 6 days. Marcus ran his scanner over the creature's torso, frowning at the readings. The metal fragments were laced with a toxin designed specifically for this species, a slow-acting poison that attacked the nervous system. Without intervention, the beast would be dead within hours. Tell the Warlord I'll need complete access to his family's medical records for this species, Marcus said, already moving toward his equipment locker. And I'll need him to leave the medical bay. Commander Hayes looked alarmed. Doctor, I don't think demanding things from an alien warlord is... The creature is dying because it's stressed. Marcus interrupted, pulling out surgical tools. Look at its vital signs. Every time the warlord moves or speaks, its heart rate spikes. It's trying to remain alert to protect him even while poisoned. I can't work with it in this state. The translation sparked an immediate argument between Hayes and the warlord. Jektar's mandibles clicked aggressively, and his hands moved to the weapons on his belt. Other Valthara warriors tensed. Ready for violence, Marcus ignored the political drama and approached the beast slowly, keeping his hands visible. The creature's massive head turned toward him, and for a moment, predator and human studied each other. The beast's nostrils flared, taking in Marcus's scent, and something in its ancient eyes shifted. Easy there, Marcus murmured, the same tone he'd used with frightened animals back on Earth. I know you're hurting. I'm going to help you, but I need you to trust me. The beast's breathing slowed slightly. Marcus took another step closer, and the creature didn't react with aggression. Behind him, the argument continued, but Marcus focused entirely on his patient. That's it, he whispered, slowly extending his hand. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help. The beast's great head lowered, and Marcus gently placed his palm against the warm scales of its snout. The creature's eyes closed, and for the first time since arriving, its massive frame relaxed slightly. Remarkable, came a new voice. Dr. Sarah Kim, the station's chief medical officer, had arrived and was watching the interaction with fascination. I've never seen a Valthara war beast accept touch from a non-Valthara before. Marcus continued his gentle contact with the creature while speaking to Dr. Kim. Can you explain to the warlord that his presence is causing the animal stress? I need him to trust me and leave us alone to work. Dr. Kim approached the still arguing aliens and spoke in fluent Valthara. The effect was immediate. Warlord Jektar stopped mid-gesture and stared at Marcus and his beast. The creature had not only accepted human touch, but was now resting its enormous head against Marcus's shoulder. The warlord spoke rapidly to Dr. Kim, who translated. He says this is impossible. These beasts bond only with their Velthara handlers from birth. They kill any other species that comes too close. He wants to know what kind of human you are. The kind that doesn't believe any creature should die in pain, Marcus replied simply. Please ask him to give me 4 hours. If I can't stabilize the beast by then, I'll step aside for whatever alternatives he prefers. Another rapid exchange in Velthara, then Dr. Kim nodded. He agrees, but he wants to leave 2 guards to watch you work. Outside the medical bay, Marcus said firmly, beginning to set up his surgical equipment. This creature needs calm to heal. The Warlord clearly didn't like this arrangement, but when his beast lifted its head and fixed him with a steady gaze, some silent communication passed between them. Jektar spoke a few words in what sounded like a different dialect, touched his fist to his chest in what might have been a salute, and left with his entourage. What did he say? Marcus asked as he prepared the surgical site. It was in Old Velthara, Dr. Kim replied. Something like, guard this human with your life? Old friend, these creatures are more than just war beasts to their people. Dr. Chun, their family members, trusted companions, symbols of honor. If this one dies, it's not going to die, Marcus said with quiet conviction. Not on my watch. The surgery took 6 hours. Marcus worked methodically, removing each metal fragment while monitoring the creature's vital signs. The toxin had damaged neural pathways throughout the beast's body, requiring delicate work to repair the connections without causing permanent paralysis. Throughout the procedure, the creature remained remarkably still, as if it understood what was happening. When Marcus hit particularly painful areas, it would rumble low in its throat, not a growl of aggression, but something that sounded almost like communication. Easy, big guy, Marcus would murmur during these moments. I know it hurts. We're almost through this part. The most challenging moment came when Marcus had to work near the creature's spine. The toxin had pooled heavily in this area, and one wrong move could leave the beast permanently paralyzed. As Marcus worked with microscopic precision, sweat beading on his forehead, the creature suddenly shifted. Dr. Kim tensed, ready to hit the emergency sedation. But the beast had simply moved its massive head to rest against Marcus's leg, providing steady, warm contact while being careful not to disturb his delicate work. Incredible, Dr. Kim whispered. It's trying to comfort you while you operate on it. Marcus smiled grimly, never taking his eyes off his work. We're comforting each other. This kind of surgery, it requires trust on both sides. As the hours passed, word of the unusual surgery spread throughout the station. Crew members found excuses to pass by the medical bay, stealing glimpses through the observation windows at the extraordinary sight of a human operating on one of the galaxy's most feared predators, with nothing but mutual trust keeping both of them safe. Finally, as the station's night cycle began, Marcus removed the last toxin-contaminated tissue and began closing the surgical sites. The creature's vital signs had steadily improved throughout the procedure, and the neural activity scans showed healthy function returning to previously damaged areas. We did it, Marcus said softly, stroking the beast's massive head. You're going to be fine. The creature's response was a sound Marcus had never heard before, a deep, melodic rumble that seemed to vibrate through his entire body. It was clearly a vocalization of contentment, perhaps even gratitude. Dr. Kim contacted Warlord Jektar, who arrived within minutes. When he saw his beast alert and responsive, the fearsome alien warrior actually staggered with relief. He approached slowly, speaking in gentle tones, and the creature lifted its great head to nuzzle against his outstretched hands. But when Jektar tried to lead the beast away from the medical table, something unexpected happened. The creature turned back to Marcus and made that same melodic rumble, extending its head toward the human. Marcus reached out instinctively, and the beast gently pressed its snout into his palm. The moment stretched in silence as everyone present realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic relations. Warlord, Jektar spoke in halting English, clearly struggling with the unfamiliar language. You have honor debt? My family owes life debt to you, human Marcus Chun. No debt necessary, Marcus replied, still gently stroking the beast's scales. This is just what we do. The warlord's mandibles clicked rapidly. Dr. Kim later explained this indicated deep confusion. The concept of helping without expectation of payment or status was apparently foreign to Velthara culture. What do you want? Jektar asked. Credits? Technology? Territory. Marcus looked into the intelligent eyes of the creature before him, then met the warlord's gaze. I want to know more about these magnificent animals. If you're willing to teach me, that would be payment enough. The silence that followed was broken only by the beast's contented rumbling. Warlord Jektar stared at Marcus as if seeing him for the first time, then spoke rapidly. 3 weeks after the surgery, Marcus had learned more about Velthara war beasts than any non-Velthara in recorded history. The creature, whose name was Kethver, meaning storm heart in the ancient tongue, had recovered with remarkable speed. More remarkable still was the bond that had formed between them. Every morning, Marcus would find Kethver waiting outside his quarters, having somehow convinced the night security guards to let him roam freely through the station corridors. The massive predator would escort Marcus to the research lab, settle beside his workstation, and remain there throughout the day like the galaxy's most intimidating research assistant. It's unprecedented, Dr. Kim observed during one of their daily discussions. Warlord Jektar says war beasts typically bond with only one Velthara in their entire lifetime. The bond is so strong that when their handler dies, the beast usually follows within days. Marcus looked up from his datapad where he'd been documenting Kethver's unique physiological adaptations. The beast lay curled nearby, though curled was a relative term for something the size of a small shuttle. His great head rested on his forepaws, but his eyes tracked every movement in the laboratory. Maybe it's not the same kind of bond, Marcus suggested. Maybe it's something new. As if summoned by the conversation, Warlord Jektar entered the laboratory. Over the past weeks, the fearsome alien warrior had become a regular visitor, ostensibly to check on his prized beast, but increasingly to observe the strange relationship developing between human and creature. Kethver's head lifted immediately, and he rumbled a greeting to his traditional handler. But when Jektar approached Marcus's workstation, something interesting happened. The beast smoothly positioned himself between the warlord and Marcus, not aggressively, but unmistakably protective. Fascinating, Jektar clicked in accented English. His language skills had improved dramatically during his extended stay on the station. He guards you now as he once guarded my heir. Marcus reached out to stroke Kethver's flank reassuringly. I don't think he sees me as needing protection from you, Jektar. I think it's just ... instinct. Perhaps, the warlord replied, but his tone suggested he had other thoughts on the matter. The first real incident occurred 2 days later. Marcus was in the station's main cafeteria, grabbing lunch before his afternoon research session when a group of Centauri traders entered. The Centauri were known throughout the galaxy for their aggressive business practices and casual disregard for other species' customs. Kethver, as always, had accompanied Marcus and lay beside his table, drawing nervous glances from other diners. The beast had become a minor celebrity on the station, but his presence still commanded respect born of healthy fear. The lead Centauri trader, a particularly large specimen named Vorthen, spotted Marcus and approached with the swagger typical of his species. You are the human who performs surgery on pets, yes? He said in heavily accented standard. Marcus looked up from his meal, noting that Kethver had raised his head at the Centauri's approach. I'm a xenobiologist. I help injured animals when possible. Excellent, Vorthen declared, gesturing for his companions to join him. I have need of your services. We have cargo hold full of rare specimens that require processing. You will assist us in preparing them for market. What kind of specimens? Marcus asked, though something in Vorthen's tone already suggested he wouldn't like the answer. Juvenile Andromedan cloud whales, another Centauri replied. Very valuable for their neural fluid. We need them kept alive until harvest. Marcus's fork clattered against his plate. Andromedan cloud whales were a protected species, intelligent, empathic creatures whose neural fluid was prized for illegal psychoactive drugs. Keeping juvenile whales alive for harvest was both illegal and deeply immoral. "I won't help you with that," Marcus said firmly. "What you're describing is illegal under galactic wildlife protection statutes." Vorthan's expression darkened. "Perhaps you misunderstand the nature of this request, human. We are not asking for your cooperation. We are informing you that you will provide it." Marcus started to stand, intending to leave, but Vorthan's massive hand shot out to grab his wrist. The Centauri's grip was punishingly strong, designed to intimidate. What happened next took less than 3 seconds. Kethver moved with speed that seemed impossible for something his size. One moment he was lying peacefully beside Marcus's table. The next, 20 feet of apex. Predator was lunging across the cafeteria with a roar that shattered drinking glasses and sent dozens of aliens diving for cover. Vorthan had just enough time to look up before 600 pounds of furious war beast slammed into him, driving him back against the wall with enough force to crack the reinforced plating. Kethver's jaws clamped around the Centauri's arm, not biting down, but holding him immobilized while the beast's eyes blazed with primal fury. The other Centauri traders reached for weapons, but found themselves facing a creature whose species had evolved to hunt prey much more dangerous than a few armed smugglers. Kethver's growl deepened to a sound that seemed to vibrate through the deck plating itself. "Kethver, stop!" Marcus commanded, rushing to the beast's side. The war beast immediately released Vorthan, who slumped against the wall, gasping and clutching his bruised arm. But Kethver didn't move away. He positioned himself directly in front of Marcus. Every muscle tensed for renewed violence. Station security arrived within minutes. But by then, the situation was under control. The Centauri traders were escorted to holding cells pending investigation of their illegal cargo, while Marcus found himself in Commander Hayes' office explaining what had happened. "Dr. Chun," the commander said wearily, "we cannot have a massive predator attacking visitors to this station, regardless of provocation." "He was protecting me," Marcus replied. "And technically he didn't actually hurt anyone. He could have crushed that Centauri's arm, but he chose not to." "That's not the point," Hayes continued. "We've received 3 formal complaints this week alone about the beast's behavior. Ambassador Quellen says it growled at his aide yesterday. The Belter Mining Consortium is threatening to cancel their contracts if they have to share common areas with an uncontrolled predator." Marcus frowned. He'd noticed Kethver becoming more protective lately, but he'd assumed it was just natural caution around strangers. "What exactly are people complaining about?" Commander Hayes consulted his datapad. "Blocking access to your laboratory when visitors try to enter. Following you to meetings and positioning himself between you and other attendees. Yesterday, apparently, he prevented a maintenance worker from approaching you by standing in a doorway and refusing to move." "He's not attacking anyone," Marcus protested. "He's just being careful." "He's being possessive," Commander Hayes corrected. "And it's starting to interfere with station operations." "I'm sorry, Dr. Chun, but I'm going to have to ask that the beast be confined to specific areas when not under direct Velthara supervision." Before Marcus could respond, the office door chimed. Warlord Jektar entered without waiting for permission, followed by Dr. Kim, who looked flustered. "I tried to tell him this was a private meeting," Dr. Kim explained apologetically. "The beast's behavior is not unexpected," Jektar announced without preamble. "It is natural progression of bond formation." Commander Hayes leaned back in his chair. "Warlord, with all due respect, we need practical solutions here, not cultural anthropology." Jektar's mandibles clicked. A sign Marcus had learned indicated amusement. "You misunderstand, Commander. This is not cultural issue. This is biological reality." The Warlord activated a holographic display from his personal device, showing complex genetic and neurological diagrams. War beasts bond through biochemical process triggered by life-death situations. When Dr. Chun saved Kethver's life, he triggered ancient genetic programming. The beast now recognizes him as protected family member. "So this is permanent?" Marcus asked. More than permanent, Shektar replied. It is evolutionary imperative. Kethver will now prioritize Dr. Chun's safety above his own survival. Any perceived threat to Dr. Chun will trigger defensive response. Commander Hayes rubbed his temples. And by perceived threat, you mean anyone who approaches Dr. Chun with intentions the beast doesn't like? Anyone who approaches Dr. Chun at all, Shektar corrected. The beast will assess threat level based on biochemical signal stress hormones, aggressive pheromones, hostile body language. Most species emit these signals unconsciously when dealing with humans. Dr. Kim looked thoughtful. Is that why he's been more protective lately? People have been getting nervous around him, which makes him more defensive. Feedback loop, Shektar confirmed. The more protective he becomes, the more nervous others become. The more nervous they become, the more protective he becomes? Without intervention, situation will escalate. Marcus felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. What kind of intervention? Traditional solution is separation, Shektar admitted reluctantly. The bonded individual leaves the territory and the beast eventually accepts new reality. And the non-traditional solution? Commander Hayes asked. Shektar's expression, as much as could be read on an alien face, seemed almost hopeful. The bonded individual demonstrates dominance over the beast's protective instincts. Shows the beast that they can handle potential threats without assistance. The training began badly. Marcus tried to follow Warlord Shektar's instructions exactly, using traditional Veilthara dominance displays to establish his authority over Kethver's protective instincts. He stood tall, made aggressive gestures, and projected what Shektar assured him were the proper biochemical signals for pack leadership. Kethver's response was to become more protective, not less. You are doing everything correctly, Shektar observed after their fifth failed session. The techniques work perfectly with Veilthara-bonded beasts. With you, they seem to have opposite effect. Marcus sat heavily on the training room floor, exhausted and frustrated. Kethver immediately moved to his side, settling his massive bulk in a protective circle around the discouraged human. Even now, the beast's eyes scanned the room for potential threats. Maybe we're approaching this wrong, Marcus said finally. You said the bond formed because I saved his life, right? What if the solution isn't to dominate him, but to understand why he feels the need to protect me so intensely? Dr. Kim, who had been observing the training sessions, looked up from her notes. What do you mean? Think about it, Marcus continued, absently stroking Kethver's flank. I'm a soft, slow, poorly armed human surrounded by beings who could kill me without effort. From his perspective, I'm incredibly vulnerable. Maybe his protectiveness isn't just instinct, maybe it's logical. Shektar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. You suggest the beast is making conscious threat assessments rather than following programming. I think he's doing both, Marcus replied. But maybe instead of trying to suppress his protective instincts, I need to help him refine them. Teach him to distinguish between real threats and perceived ones. Impossible, Shektar declared. War beasts do not have capacity for such subtle judgments. They respond to biochemical triggers and learned patterns. Marcus looked into Kethver's ancient eyes and saw something the Veilthara had apparently missed. What if they're more intelligent than you give them credit for? Over the following days, Marcus abandoned the traditional training methods and developed his own approach. Instead of dominance displays, he used positive reinforcement and communication techniques borrowed from his work with Earth. Animals. The breakthrough came during a carefully orchestrated test. Dr. Kim entered the laboratory where Marcus was working. Carrying a medical scanner that she pointed in his direction, Kethver immediately tensed, positioning himself between them. Easy, Kethver, Marcus said calmly. Dr. Kim is a friend. She's not threatening me. But instead of simply repeating the command, Marcus did something unprecedented. He approached Dr. Kim himself, took the scanner from her hands, and demonstrated that it was harmless by using it on himself. Then he offered it to Kethver to examine. The war beast studied the device carefully, his nostrils flaring as he analyzed its scent and composition. After a moment, he made a soft rumbling sound and settled back down. Remarkable, Dr. Kim breathed. He actually evaluated the threat level. Marcus smiled. He's been doing that all along. We just weren't giving him enough information to make good decisions. Word of the successful training session spread quickly through the station. Warlord Jektar arrived within hours, accompanied by several other Velthara military officers who wanted to witness this unprecedented development. "Show us," Jektar demanded. Marcus arranged for Commander Hayes to enter the laboratory in an apparently agitated state, speaking loudly and gesticulating behaviors that normally would have triggered an immediate protective response from Kethver. "Dr. Chun," the commander said, playing his role convincingly, "I need those research reports immediately." Kethver lifted his head and assessed the situation, but Marcus calmly walked over to the commander and handed him a datapad. "No problem, Commander. Here's everything you requested." The commander accepted the datapad with exaggerated friendliness, shook Marcus's hand, and left peacefully. Throughout the entire interaction, Kethver remained alert but calm, watching for genuine threats but not interfering with normal social interaction. The assembled Velthara stared in stunned silence. "How?" Jektar finally asked. "I stopped trying to suppress his intelligence and started working with it," Marcus explained. Kethver doesn't just react to biochemical signals, he processes context, evaluates outcomes, and makes decisions. He needed better information, not stricter control. One of the other Velthara officers, a scarred veteran named Drakmar, stepped forward. "This suggests our understanding of war beast cognition is fundamentally flawed." "Not flawed," Marcus replied diplomatically. "Just incomplete. Your traditional methods work perfectly for your species because you communicate, primarily through biochemical and postural cues. Humans communicate differently. We rely more on verbal and contextual information." Kethver learned to read both systems. Over the following weeks, Marcus's training methods proved remarkably effective. Kethver learned to distinguish between genuine threats and normal station activities. He could assess whether Marcus was comfortable in a social situation and respond appropriately. Most importantly, he learned to trust Marcus's judgment about the safety of their environment. The real test came when the station hosted its monthly trade conference. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the main assembly hall to conduct business, and Marcus was scheduled to present his research on war beast cognition with Kethver, present as a demonstration subject. The assembly hall buzzed with nervous energy as Marcus and Kethver took the stage. The war beast settled beside the podium, alert but calm, while Marcus began his presentation. 3 months ago, this magnificent creature was dying from poison designed to kill his species, Marcus began. Today, he represents something unprecedented, a bridge between human and Velthara understanding of interspecies bonding. As Marcus spoke, several audience members moved around the hall, taking recordings and changing positions. Kethver tracked their movements but remained relaxed. Having learned to recognize normal conference behavior, the critical moment came when a Rigelian diplomat stood up and challenged Marcus's conclusions with obvious hostility in his voice. "Your claims about war beast intelligence are preposterous," the diplomat declared. "These creatures are nothing more than biological weapons. They cannot be trusted in civilized environments." The insult to Kethver was clear, and the room tensed as everyone waited to see how the war beast would respond to what amounted to a verbal attack on his species. Kethver raised his great head and fixed the Rigelian with a steady gaze. For a moment, the ancient predator's eyes held a spark of something that might have been amusement. Then he made a soft rumbling sound and rested his head back on his forepaws. Effectively dismissing the diplomat as beneath his notice, the assembled delegates burst into surprised laughter at the clearly intelligent and dignified response. The Rigelian sat down, looking embarrassed. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings," Marcus continued smoothly, "I believe Kethver just made my point better than I could with words. The presentation was a complete success. More importantly, it demonstrated that the bond between human and war beast could benefit both species without compromising either's nature. After the conference, Warlord Jektar approached Marcus privately. "You have achieved something my people believed impossible," he said. "You have taught a war beast to think beyond its programming while maintaining its essential nature." "I didn't teach him to think," Marcus corrected. "I learned to communicate with intelligence that was already there." Jektar was quiet for a long moment. "This changes many things for my people. If war beasts are truly sapient rather than simply trained, then our entire relationship with them must be reconsidered." "Change can be good," Marcus replied. "Understanding usually is." "There is something else," Jektar continued. "The Veilthara Council has voted to offer you full citizenship and a position as our first human beast master. The honor has never been extended to an off-worlder before." Marcus was touched by the offer, but he shook his head. "I appreciate the honor, but my place is here. Kethver and I have work to do." "What kind of work?" Marcus gestured toward the viewport, where stars sparkled in the void. "There are probably thousands of species out there who could benefit from better interspecies understanding. Kethver and I seem to be good at building bridges." As if summoned by his name, the war beast approached and settled beside them. His great head turned toward the viewport, and Marcus could have sworn he saw anticipation in those ancient eyes. "Besides," Marcus added with a smile, "I think Kethver likes the traveling lifestyle." The war beast's rumble of agreement echoed through the observation deck. 6 months later, Dr. Marcus Chen and his companion Kethver had become legends throughout the outer systems. They traveled from station to station, world to world, helping to resolve interspecies conflicts through what became known as the Chun Protocol, a combination of scientific understanding and empathetic communication that seemed to work across cultural boundaries. The bond between them had evolved beyond simple protection into something resembling true partnership. Kethver had learned to read not just Marcus's emotional state, but his intentions, often anticipating his needs before they were expressed. Marcus, in turn, had developed an intuitive understanding of war beast body language that allowed him to commune